I mostly tell my story in a setting which is just a room full of recovering addicts. So it's going to be a little bit different. Okay, coming in 3, 2, and 1. I think that looking back in hindsight, I can see now aspects of the disease of addiction present in my life and in me as a child. Although I didn't know that's what was really going on. But in 1998, something changed. My life was turned upside down. As a matter of fact, on this very day, 20 years ago, in 1998, my father died unexpectedly. At his funeral, I can remember people coming up to me and offering me their condolences and stuff like that. And then a few of them here and there would offer me something else. Aside from condolences, they would give me pills. They gave me a few pills here and there, Valium or what have you, just to try to help me. They thought they were helping me anyway. And I took those when they gave them to me, and I felt okay. I could literally sit there in that funeral home with my father laid out for the world to see, and I didn't feel a thing. I didn't feel anything because of the pills that those people gave me. And at that very moment, I thought, well, I don't ever have to feel anything again if I don't want to. And as a result, I never dealt with my father's death. I never allowed myself to grieve, but I never allowed myself because I continued to numb the pain. And then eventually I found excuses and reasons to use other than numbing the pain, because I wasn't always in pain. I used it to numb the pain, enhance the good times. If my last 10 years of using was like my first 10 years of using, I probably wouldn't have stopped. Because it was all fun, it was all a party, from one day to the next. Eventually my life slowly, progressively became unmanageable. I slowly began to become a really crappy employee. I really slowly, progressively became a really crappy son, a really crappy brother. I dropped out of college. Anybody who challenged my using, alienated from my life. So, and like I said, eventually I became worse. Progressively I became worse. And as a result, I started getting in trouble. And that trouble also progressively got worse. In 1999, the year after my dad died, was the first time I ever went to jail. It was for a public intoxication charge. And over the years, as my disease progressed and my using progressed, so did the charges, the severity of those charges. They would range from public intoxication to shoplifting to just various things, possession of drugs and paraphernalia, until finally, in the last 5 years of my use, things got really bad, really, really quick. Within those 5 years, my criminal record got relatively worse, relatively fast. Got a couple of DUIs. I was convicted of trafficking a controlled substance twice. So, needless to say, I was facing a lot of jail time and prison time. Just before that, up until that point, I had lost my family. Of my own choosing, I had lost my family. Friends, a career, relationships. I'd thrown it all away, given it all away, basically. None of that was my rock bottom. Everybody has a different level of rock bottom. What may be rock bottom for you necessarily wasn't for me, and vice versa. So, as I said, I was looking at a lot of prison time, and I did. The second time that I was convicted of trafficking, I ended up taking a 5-year sentence. And that wasn't even rock bottom for me, you know. I had actually twice on 2 separate occasions woke up. One of these people I'd woke up next to was my best friend since 1st grade, and I found him dead, laying beside me. Not my rock bottom. Normal people, that would be like, oh, wake up call. You know, me, no, it wasn't. It made me use more. It made me want to numb, you know, continue to numb those feelings, not have to deal with reality. So I end up going to prison. Before I actually got shipped out from county jail to prison, my rock bottom finally came. I had been locked up about 4 months, and you know, there was 2 people that had never really turned their back on me, no matter what I had done to them. My mother and my grandmother, her mother. No matter how much I had robbed from them, no matter how much I cussed them, manipulated them, lied to them, they never turned their back on me. So they would always come visit me while I was still in the county jail every week. A couple of weeks go by, my grandmother, my granny, she doesn't show up. So I asked Mom, I said, you know, where's Granny? She said, well, she's not feeling well. I'm like, okay, all right. 2 more weeks roll by. I ask her again. I say, okay, now what's really going on? You know, where's Granny? She goes, well, Sean, she's not doing real well. You know, she was 83 years old, lived a long life, wasn't in the best of health, smoked most of her life. And she had a blockage, one of her main arteries in her leg. And they couldn't operate because they did not think she could, you know, withstand the surgery or the anesthesia, so they just were trying to make her comfortable as possible, is what my mom told me. So she leaves. I try to use the phone, get up front to the booking desk to use the phone to call her. It takes me a few days, but I eventually get up there and I call. My mom answers the phone, asks to speak to Granny. She hands Granny the phone, and immediately, you know, Granny starts crying when she hears my voice. And you know, I couldn't really tell you hardly anything that we said to one another during that conversation, mostly because she was nonstop crying her eyes out. But the one thing I did hear her say, and the only reason I did hear her say it, was because she kept saying it over and over again, was, why, Sean? Why did you do it again? Why? You know, and that woman, after all I had done to her, and after all she had given me all of her life, she did not deserve for me to make her feel that way while she was dying. She didn't deserve that, you know, not in the slightest. Here she was dying, and she was worried about me. You know. Anyway, a week later she died. And when they finally told me, 3 days after she had already passed, I went and got in the shower in my cell, and I cried. I cried for the first time in a very, very long time, because I didn't allow myself to feel anything for a very, very long time. And at that moment, I felt that shame, that guilt, that regret, and that remorse, you know, that I had been numbing all of my life, or all of my adult life. I felt that because I was forcibly clean at that time. So I had to sit and feel that, and I didn't like it. I didn't like it. I didn't want to ever feel that way again. I didn't want to ever feel that kind of guilt, shame, regret, and remorse. You know? And at that moment, in that shower, in that cell, in that jail, I knew right then and there I had to do something. I didn't know what to do. I had no clue what to do, but I became willing to do something at that moment. And from that point on, for the next few weeks before I got shipped out and shipped to LaGrange, I asked every human being with a badge or that was walking up down the hall that wasn't an inmate, can you help me? I need help. I need to get somewhere to get some help. Can you help me? I even asked the judge at my sentencing, my final sentencing, if he could help me. As a result, I end up getting to a facility where there was a substance abuse program, and it was required by me to take and participate in that 6-month SAP substance abuse program. It was a condition of my parole. I could make parole. They granted me parole, but I had to complete that SAP program first. So I went in there, and just completely open-minded, and I absorbed as much information as I possibly could. And once I hit the door, I think the only thing that really was of major value to me is they told me that the first thing I need to do when I get out is go to a meeting. And that's what I did. I'm not here to promote one particular path of recovery. I don't do that. I understand today that, the path that I'm on, that works for me, that has worked for me, and that continues to work for me, may not necessarily work for somebody else, and that's okay. What I advocate is action. Somebody to take action in their own recovery process. Find what works for you. Find what works for you. Because as long as you're taking action, as long as you're seeking a solution, you'll find one. You have to take action. I have to take action in my own recovery. And that's what I found in those meetings. I found people just like me, who think like me, because I thought I was the only one that had these insane ideas and these insane thoughts that go through my head, and I share that with those people and they share it with me. We help one another. We're there for one another. People who genuinely care about me and genuinely care about what I want to do about my recovery. People that don't want anything from me but for me to get better, and vice versa. They call it self-help, but it's not really self-help. It's just one addict helping another. And there's so many of us out there. People, yeah, I do have a success story, but I didn't do it alone. I don't do this alone. I've never had to do this alone. I always felt alone. I always felt like I was alone and isolated while I was using an active addiction. But I don't have to go through anything alone. The only reason that I sit here in front of you today with well over 6 years clean and have accomplished, some things that I have accomplished in my life is because I have such a broad base of support that I have found in those meetings. But you know what? Out of all the things that I've found, and it's nice to have a career. It's nice to have a car. It's nice to be able to pay bills on time and not have to worry about, electricity getting cut off, or even living in a house that has electricity for that matter. Those things are all nice. But there's so many other things that I have found as a result of being an active participant of my own recovery. One of those things is I found me. It's one of the most valuable things that I've found so far, and that I continue. I get to know me. I get to find out who I am, who Sean is. And as a result, for the first time in my life, I'm okay with me. And that's a big deal. All that's usually tied in with the decisions I make. At the end of the day, when I lay my head down at night, it's just me and that pillow. And I have to be okay with the decisions I make throughout the day and in my own life. And those people in that program help me to make better decisions and live life without the use of drugs. Because I never could do that before. I couldn't live. I could not wake up without drugs. I could not go outside without using drugs. I could not do anything without the use of drugs. And today, I have freedom. Freedom from active addiction, freedom from self. And that means a lot. It means everything. Also, as a result of staying clean and being in the program, I have a son now. He's 2 years old. And I have to say that he's definitely one of the many gifts that have been afforded to me through recovery. Recovery allows me to be there and be present in his life and be a father to the best of my ability. And with any luck, as long as I stay actively participating in my own recovery, he'll never have to see his daddy use. He'll never have to see his dad talk to his dad through a glass window, And there's so much that being a dad has done for me. I came in out of active addiction, not believing in God, or at least I did believe, but I believed it was a damning, all smite me, pointing your finger down, hellfire and brimstone God, and that was it, a vengeful God. But through that program and me being involved in actively involved in my own recovery, they allowed me my process of discovering who God was to me. Nobody forced their beliefs on me, shoved their beliefs down my throat. They allowed me my own process, my own path, and as a result, I've developed a relationship with the God of my understanding, and I have. And I still continue to try to develop that relationship. So basically, in a nutshell, recovery has not only freed me from active addiction, but it's given me my life back, and a life that I never dreamed possible, never in a million years. It's made me, it's made me a brother again. It's made me a father. It's made me a son. It's made me a productive member of society. It's made me a responsible employee. It's made me a college graduate. It's made me so many things. So many things. It's given me so many gifts. And in return, I stay involved to give back to that still suffering addict. I try to the best of my ability anyway, because I truly believe that I have to return that favor. And I have to, it's a big part of my recovery, is helping that next addict that needs my experience for whatever it's worth. So all I can say is, if I had any suggestion to give to anyone who seeks recovery, is just look for it, take action, and look for it, because it's out there.